Welcome to Timekeeping. This show will attempt to chronicle year-by-year changes to the Walt Disney World Resort, from the excitement of a new ride opening to the minutia of a store changing names. Join us as we celebrate 50 years of the vacation kingdom of the world. In the year 2012, people may have been worrying about the end of times, but at Walt Disney World, there was no end in sight. The resort was fully preparing for its future with new attractions, new lands, updates to major e-tickets, new hotels, and of course the rollout of what would all eventually be MyMagic Plus. Between what was going on in the parks, new partnerships, acquisitions, and even bankruptcies, it would start to mold the future of the Disney parks. At the entrance of the Magic Kingdom, a new center exit was added, and RFID turnstiles began to appear throughout the year, but did not go into operation until December. These turnstiles, or tap stiles, and other tap points placed in front of rides were part of the new initiative then known as Next Gen, later named publicly MyMagic Plus. Throughout the year, various testing began on FastPass Plus, starting May 1st by recruiting guests in the Magical Express queues at Orlando International Airport. Guests using Magical Express started being pre-selected before their trips via email in September, with a third wave expanding testing to other parks in December. The final test settled on 3 pre-selected fast passes per day and even featured tiers. As part of this initiative, on-ride photos were added to the PhotoPass Plus package in April. RFID locks began to appear on various resort rooms throughout the year as well. While much of Main Street finished a multi-year refurbishment of the facades and some other renovations, the official opening of Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom in February brought new life to Town Square and the various portals around the land and park as a whole. The game generated long lines at the initial run, as well as limits on merchandise. The Magic, the Memories, and You projection show received 2 seasonal updates, with a romance segment being added in February for Valentine's Day, and a summer segment joining May 25th before the show completely was removed on September 3rd. Celebrate the Magic was an update of The Magic, the Memories, and You with better projections and more contemporary films such as Brave and Wreck-It Ralph. It dropped the aspect where guest photos were part of the show. The Magic Kingdom would play host to One More Disney Day, a first-of-its-kind event that would see the Magic Kingdom open for 24 straight hours, beginning 6 a.m. on February 29th to 6 a.m. on March 1st. Guests entering in the foggy early morning hours were given commemorative ears and buttons. Early on, the initial lines were only for merchandise, though crowds would build throughout the day and begin to reach capacity levels in the late afternoon as locals began to come in after work. Some rides would begin to close for periods in the late night for their daily maintenance. Disney also provided extra entertainment such as DJs and dance parties throughout the day, and once it got late enough in the evening, park benches were physically removed to avoid guests trying to sleep on them. In Adventureland, the Sunshine Tree Terrace received some updates that took the location back in time. During the refurbishment, the machine that made citrus swirls was rediscovered, and the iconic treat and its mascot, the Orange Bird, returned to the refreshment stand in April. August would see the permanent closure of Shrunken Ned's Junior Jungle Boats to become stroller parking, and in anticipation of FastPass Plus, the Pirates of the Caribbean queue was modified. Pirates of the Caribbean would also receive a significant scene update in the caverns when projections of mermaids were added in the water and mermaid skeletons were actually added onto the beach in the grotto scene. This happened in September. While not yet running, elements of the Pirates interactive game began to appear throughout Adventureland in December. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad closed for a multi-month refurbishment and track replacement on January 9th, reopening in June with repaired show elements, but not the promised interactive queue. While not on, these elements began to be installed overnight in November, along with a new backstory featuring Barnabas T. Bullion, and with his portrait that looks remarkably like Imagineer Tony Baxter. The Country Bear Jamboree also underwent refurbishment, closing August 21st and reopening on October 27th. While the show looked incredible at its reopening, it was shortened by nearly 5 minutes. 2 entire songs, the Fractured Folk Song and Devilish Mary, were removed entirely, while many others were shortened. As well, significant dialogue, particularly from Melvin, Buff, and Max, was removed, including a line of so-called fat shaming about Trixie. If you look closely today, you could still see the trio mouth the words they said about Trixie. Fantasyland was in a constant state of flux throughout the year. The existing Dumbo the Flying Elephant would close on January 9th, with the new East Spinner of the Double Dumbos opening March 12th, along with the rethemed Barnstormer starring the Great Goofini and a new highly themed train station. Rather than being a Daredevil crop duster, the Barnstormer was now part of Storybook Circus, a subland of Fantasyland that replaced Mickey's Toontown Fair. The Rapunzel Play and Greet would relocate to Main Street next to City Hall on April 15th, while Merida and her bear brothers in audio animatronic form would take over Fairy Tale Gardens in May. You may recognize these animatronic bears as they were relocated into the Festival of Fantasy Parade a few years later. Snow White's Scary Adventures would permanently close on May 31st, with the final rides being reserved for Ben, an autistic boy who connected with the ride and whom cast members wanted to ensure reached the goal of 3,500 rides on the classic attraction before it closed. The long-closed portion of the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh Queue, Tigger's Bouncy Place, was converted into a meet-and-greet area for Pooh characters this year. Also in June, the rest of Dumbo the Flying Elephant would open. The second spinner, using parts from the closed version, opened, followed a few days later on June 24th by the new interactive Cube Playground area. This gave the kids a place to play, while the parents sat nearby watching and waiting for their turn to be called on the ride. Also opening the same time was the Casey Jr. Splash and Soak Station, a water play area. Designed to resemble a railroad turntable, the play area featured Casey Jr. in the middle, surrounded by railroad cars filled with circus animals that would spit or hose down guests. Each of the cars is numbered to coincide with the opening year of a Walt Disney World theme park. On September 13th, it was announced that Be Our Guest Restaurant would be the first location to serve alcohol in the Magic Kingdom. Later in the month, the Seven Dwarfs Mine Shop would close, and Enchanted Tales with Belle began playtesting. Guests enter Enchanted Tales with Belle through Maurice's cottage and into his workshop. Once there, a cast member explains the magic mirror the Beast gave Maurice to contact Belle, and will use it to transport the audience to the castle. In the pre-show area, the host and Madame Wardrobe assign guests different roles to play in the Beauty and the Beast story. Most of the roles are assigned to children, aside from the suits of armor, mostly given to semi-reluctant dads or other full-grown men. Fun fact, I've never actually seen this show from the seats, as I've only ever been cast as the armor in the 20-some-odd times I've seen this thing. Every child who wants a part is given one to play, and the crowd moves into the library where an animatronic Lumiere sets up the scene and summons Belle for the surprise. The amateur cast reenacts the story, and Belle passes out bookmarks and takes photos with the kids as they exit. Well, she also takes pictures with the reluctant adults who play armor. Like most of the rest of New Fantasyland, Enchanted Tales with Belle sits in Fantasyland Forest, an area beyond the newly added castle walls. On October 4th, Big Top Souvenirs and Pete's Silly Sideshow opened inside the rebuilt tents. Pete's Silly Sideshow is a meet-and-greet area split into two sections, where guests can line up to either meet the Great Goofini and the astounding Donaldo, dressed as Daredevil and Magician respectively, or Minnie Magnifique, a Parisian poodle trainer, and the fortune teller Madame Daisy Fortuna, each in front of a themed backdrop. Guests exit through the Big Top Souvenirs shop, which sells character merchandise and contains Big Top treats, which sells candy and baked goods similar to the confectionery. On October 12th, soft openings of the rest of New Fantasyland began with Under the Sea, Journey of the Little Mermaid, Gaston's Tavern, and Bonjour Village Gifts opening. Gaston's Tavern is a snack location that specialized in pork shanks, cinnamon rolls, and LeFou's Brew, an apple slushie, all in heavy Beauty and the Beast themed areas. Next door sits Bonjour Village Gifts that sold Beauty and the Beast merchandise, most of it specifically developed for the land. In fact, at opening, you could buy replica silverware and plateware from the Be Our Guest restaurant. Under the Sea, Journey of the Little Mermaid features a large facade complete with shipwrecks and Prince Eric's castle. Guests navigate intricate rockwork and caverns, interacting with treasure-hunting crabs along the way. Once inside the caves, Scuttle greets the guests as the crabs present the treasures they found. Guests then board their clamshell vehicles as Scuttle begins to narrate the story. Effects submerge the guests underwater as they pass through Ariel's Treasure Grotto, a large recreation of the Under the Sea musical number, and past an immense Ursula animatronic, all before rising out of the ocean in time to kiss the girl, bypass most of the story, and see Ursula defeated in the background. The ride ends with the attending of a royal wedding. Next door to the ride, the Little Mermaid herself, Ariel, began greeting guests in Ariel's Grotto. Be Our Guest restaurant opened with official previews on November 19th. The restaurant was highly themed to different parts of the Beast Castle and enters into an entrance built into the mountainside below the forced perspective full model of the castle. At dinner time, guests were either seated in the recreation of the ballroom or the mysterious West Wing. Depending on the room, guests would see the slashed portrait change under lighting effects as rose petals fell from the enchanted rose, or could watch snowfall outside the great ballroom windows. Also looking up in the ballroom would reveal little angels with faces of Imagineers who worked on the project. At lunchtime, the restaurant was a quick service with guests queuing through a hallway of whispering suits of armor, all before placing their orders that servers would bring to their table thanks to RFID roses. The Rose Gallery would serve as an additional dining room during lunch beneath a large centerpiece of a music box of Belle and the Beast dancing. The backstory to this music box was that Maurice had designed it as a gift for Belle and the Beast. In fact, over at Enchanted Tales with Belle, in his workshop, you'll find the small model of this that Maurice first carved, as well as the schematics for this giant music box. With the popularity of the sit-down dinner service, the Rose Gallery was eventually offered as part of dinner as well. A fun thing to listen for when you're in the restaurant, there are actually 3 different music loops, all perfectly timed to one another, playing the same song in 3 different versions simultaneously. In the Rose Gallery, music emanates from the music box that Maurice gave as a gift. In the West Wing, a melancholy, less chord version of most songs plays, while a full orchestral version plays in the ballroom. Streetmosphere characters, the Royal Majesty Makers, began appearing during the previews, while the Giggle Gang Clown Act started after the official opening of the land on December 6th. The official opening featured an ultralight aircraft designed like a dragon flying over the land. Many guests assume, with all the heavy marketing for this, that it would be a nightly offering. It never appeared again. The year ended with the beginning of the 2013 promotion of Limited Time Magic. The promotion would give guests extra unique experiences throughout the year. The first one kicked off at Rocket Tower Plaza Stage on December 30th with Bling in the New Year, a dance party that would run through January 5th. Over at Epcot, January 6th saw the announcement of the Test Track refurbishment and the re-signing of sponsor General Motors under their Chevrolet brand. Even before its closure, Chevy began taking over the pavilion from GM branding, and the new blue cars, which started appearing the year before, became more the norm. The ride closed for its long overhaul on April 15th, and to keep guests entertained in the area, some of the Voices of Liberty singers became the Test Track All-Stars, a group that would sing a cappella versions of car-themed songs in front of the displayed Chevy cars. The ride would soft open on December 3rd, with the official reopening on December 6th. While the ride profile itself didn't change, the experience was drastically different. The industrial theme was gone, replaced by a more modern computer simulation theme a la Tron. The beloved Bill McKim pre-show was replaced by a virtual design studio where guests could build their own sim cars to try and maximize power, responsiveness, capability, and efficiency. On board the ride, guests would see how their cars fared. The warehouse feel was replaced with a digital landscape often compared to Tron. The blocks were removed entirely, and the ABS demonstration became a weather handling test. The environmental rooms gave way to efficiency checks. Road handling and speed test areas remained much the same with the removal of the crash test pretext. Guests would exit through a new post-show area where they could play their cars on driving simulators or even create commercials for them. In Innoventions, Habit Heroes would begin playtesting on February 4th, but would never officially open. Just days before the scheduled March 5th premiere, the exhibit was sent back to be redesigned after several complaints and articles said the experience was fat-shaming and sent a bullying message. Vision House would officially open on April 22nd. IBM's Smarter Planet and the Environmentality Corner would close in 2012. Kim Possible World Showcase Adventure would end on May 18th, but was replaced on June 23rd by Agent P's World Showcase Adventure, based on the platypus spy from Phineas and Ferb. The experience took place throughout World Showcase, and while many of the elements were available upon opening, a few took the summer to be replaced. Kodak sponsorships throughout all the parks, including those at Imagination, abruptly ended with the company's bankruptcy. After having sponsored many attractions, photo spots, and even the park maps for decades, Disney ended up being one of the top creditors to the film company. In World Showcase, Tutto Italia reopened after a massive refurbishment on May 1st, along with the Tutto Gusto wine bar next door. The exhibit in the entrance area of the Mexico Pavilion became La Vida Antigua, Life in Ancient Mexico. That began in June. Brave, the Highland Games tournament, ran as a kids' play area in the Rose Walk area June 1st through July 8th. Bistro de Paris closed in July and reopened as the signature restaurant Monsieur Paul on December 6th. A large Disney Vacation Club kiosk was constructed next to the O Canada exit path late in the year. Over at Disney's Hollywood Studios, while it was normal for the magic of Disney animation to switch exhibits regularly to promote new films, the entire exit area exhibit was updated to highlight animated background art sometime in April. May 16th saw the large new Fantasyland model added to One Man's Dream. Ralph and Vanellope replaced the Pooh characters in the animation building on October 28th. The Mr. Spell decoration began to actually display and speak for the first time in November. It was installed with the opening of Pixar Place way back in 2008, but for some reason was never able to work. Eventually, this would find a new home over at Slinky Dog Dash in Toy Story Land. With an official December 6th opening, The Legend of Captain Jack Sparrow opened next door to One Man's Dream on November 21st. The projection show taught guests how to be pirates by getting them to perform different motions, ones that would repel skeletons, the Kraken, and other dangers. The show featured Johnny Depp as the titular captain and culminated in a battle against Davy Jones. While guests had seen projection mapping now in many locations, whether it be on Cinderella Castle or along the ride path at Test Track, this was the first experience in the round to use projection mapping, and in a lot of ways would mirror many of the show scenes in Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which would not open for another 8 years. Over at Fantasmic, the Hollywood Hills Amphitheater saw the addition of 1,000 seats in the old standing room only area. While it had no direct effect on the studios or any park in 2012, the most significant event in all of Disney in 2012 was the acquisition of Lucasfilm on October 30th. Negotiations began at the grand opening of Star Tours in 2011 and led to Disney buying Lucasfilm, Skywalker Sound, and ILM for $4.05 billion. Fun fact, the conversation began over lunch at the Brown Derby restaurant. While there had been rumored plans of an update to the studios, Disney gaining complete control of Star Wars would drastically change all of those plans for the park's makeover and somewhat delay them. Animal Kingdom's signature attraction, Kilimanjaro Safaris, would see many of its opening day elements removed in 2012. Announced in February, the Little Red animatronic, Warden Wilson Matua, and the entire Poacher narrative were removed from the ride on April 29th, though Wilson remained in the pre-show videos. Work would commence on the ride throughout the year while the ride remained open, removing old show elements and plants toxic to the coming residents. Zebra Glen would begin to host its namesake equines in November. Small limbs began to fall off of the Tree of Life down onto its pathways and the It's Tough to Be a Bug queue in May, leading to netted canopies beginning to be installed over the walkways in June. Also in June, the Sundowner street parties would begin in Africa, Asia, and Dinoland. These street parties featured cultural artwork and culinary demonstrations, as well as dance parties themed to each of the locations. The Beastly Bazaar shop on Discovery Island would close in August to make way for a meet and greet experience the next year. With the cancellation of Hyperion Wharf, not much was happening at Downtown Disney. A Wreck-It Ralph themed room with several Fix-It Felix game cabinets was added to Disney Quest for the opening of the film, and Splitsville, the 30-lane bowling alley and restaurant, would open on December 19th. January 16th was the opening date of the Exotic Driving Experience, where guests could drive or be passengers in supercars driving around the Walt Disney World Speedway. Guests could choose between Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Audis, and Porsches with values up to $250,000. March saw the addition of the Royal Guest Rooms at Port Orleans Riverside. The story goes that Tiana used these rooms to host the other princesses when they came to visit. Highly themed, the rooms include light-up headboards and references to multiple animated classics, including a rare reference to the Beast as Adam. The resort as a whole also saw a refurbishment. In April, Marvel finally began its invasion of Walt Disney World with the Avenger Rail, transporting guests around the Magic Kingdom monorail loop. It was also announced that Starbucks locations would be coming to all U.S. Disney parks, though none would hit Walt Disney World until 2013. The Alice in Wonderland water play area opened at Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa on September 22nd, and the Senses Spa, now operated by Disney, opened on December 17th, with the rebranding of Saratoga's location to follow on January 19th. Disney's newest value resort, the Art of Animation, began operating on May 31st with the opening of the Finding Nemo suites. The Cars and Lion King suites would open on June 18th and August 10th, respectively, and the regular guest rooms in the Little Mermaid section on September 15th. Originally designed to be the classic years of Pop Century, 9/11 canceled the plans and several buildings sat incomplete, some never even rising off the ground. These buildings later became the Little Mermaid rooms and the main lobby building. Differing from the rest of the value resorts, the newly built, highly themed family suite buildings feature internal corridors and are split into a bedroom and living room area with pull-out and Murphy beds, as well as 2 bathrooms. The main building features the ink and paint shop and the Landscape of Flavors food court. The resort centers around the largest hotel pool on property, the Big Blue Pool, which is salt water and contains underwater speakers, well, at least originally did. The Cars wing features the Cozy Cone Pool, complete with the cone-shaped cabanas, and there's also a pool at the Little Mermaid. 2012 was one of the biggest years in the entire 50-year history of the Walt Disney World Resort. Long-awaited expansions began to open, and more were on the way. A new resort redefined theming and value, while others saw expansions around the corner. Also around the corner was the start of construction on multiple new projects that would take their respective areas to new heights and vastly change guest expectations. Well, time sure flies. If you're enjoying your jump from time to time with us, please hit the like button and please subscribe to WDW News Today here on YouTube. To support this show and others, join the WDWNT Inner Globe Society at patreon.com/WDWNT. To pick up the perfect gear to celebrate 50 years of the Walt Disney World Resort, head on over to Carousel of Products at carouselofproducts.com. We'll see you real soon right here on Timekeeping.